Are there really customer service and operations lessons for your MSP from Walt Disney World? I believe so, and so does my special guest today. You see, Disney has completely systemized an amazing experience every time you visit one of its parks. No detail is left to chance. They have literally thought through everything in advance and then turned it into a system that their staff can implement stress-free. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing to do with your MSP's customer service? My special guest is going to tell you right now exactly how you do this.
Hey everybody, my name is Vance Morris and I am a customer experience strategist and tactician working with service-based businesses pretty much in most English-speaking countries. So here I am.
Here you are. Thank you so much for joining us, Vance. And in particular, we want to talk about the things that you learned at a particular part of your career where you worked within Disney. And anyone who has ever spent time in any of the Disney parks, and I've spent at least 30 days of my life in Disney parks, you know, in all of them, actually, apart from Tokyo, that's on the list. But we all know that they are a whole step up, right? You go into a Disney park and the experience, and not just for what they've built, but particularly the experience with their people, compared to, say, a Universal or a SeaWorld or other similar things where they can buy the same rides or similar rides, but the people thing is on a completely different scale. So we want to explore, how does Disney achieve that? And particularly, how can MSPs do that within their business? So I've kind of dipped into the start of your career there. Just tell us a little bit more about that career, Vance. What have you been doing over the last 20, 30 years or so? And how did you end up working with Disney on their leadership?
Certainly, great question. It was actually it was my second job in my lifetime. Well, second real job after college. And I had a very interesting application process. A buddy of mine from college was a recruiter for Disney. I got tired of living up north. I called him up and said, "Hey, do you have anything for me?" He said, "Yes, come on down." And that was the extent of the interview process. Now, I guarantee you they're not doing that anymore.
No.
But I did spend the next 10 years working for the Mouse, and primarily in hospitality, hotels, resorts, restaurants, and things like that. And I learned, one of the first things I learned, and it wasn't how to pick up trash or how to be nice to people or anything like that. It was that Disney runs on systems, processes and systems, and they've got one for everything. I mean, you want to change a tire on a bus, they got a system for it. You want to carry a tray in a restaurant, they got a system for it. And what I found is that if you follow the systems and you practice the systems, it actually gives you room in your head to do all of the nice things that Disney is known for. So it gives you some freedom so that you're not focused on your actual job, but you are now, you do the job by rote. I mean, it's just muscle memory. You go through it. And now you have time to take pictures of families and, you know, do autographs and all of the little things that Disney is known for. And so I applied that in my businesses. So I started, I have 3 home service businesses here in the States, in Maryland. And I took those systems, those customer experience systems, marketing systems, and plugged them into a carpet cleaning business and a mold remediation company. And I figure if it works in a carpet cleaning business, it'll work anywhere. And what it did for me as a business owner is it gave me freedom from the business. So once I had all that implemented, fast forward to today, I'm spending about 90 minutes a week on those 3 businesses. I was able to hire a general manager. He runs the day-to-day. And I'm able to spend 60 minutes with him, 30 minutes on the banking and kissing babies, eating bonbons, that kind of thing. And away we go. But truly, that first thing is systems. And you have to systemize your business so that you have consistency in the experiences that you're providing your customers.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I guess this, by putting in place systems like that, and let's just take it back to Disney, because that's obviously something that we're all, or most of us, are aware of. So if you go and work for Disney in whatever job you do, and it's completely systemized, I guess from an employee's point of view, rather than taking away freedom from you, it actually shows you this is what success looks like. So you gave the example of changing the wheel on the bus. And we all know that changing the wheel on the bus isn't really about changing the wheel. It's about communicating to the people on the bus, communicating to the people who are waiting for the bus that isn't going to arrive.
Right.
I'm sure Disney doesn't like breakdowns in its parks because it doesn't ever want anyone to see behind the scenes. How does the driver act? How does the mechanic act? It's all of that kind of stuff. And obviously someone somewhere has thought that through. And I got this from, I read a book, what was it, years ago? I bet you've read it, Vance. The Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande. I don't know if you've come across that. Yeah. It's a great book, and it's a very similar thing. It's set within the worlds of medicine and aviation, and it talks about how checklists can help incredibly intelligent people, brain surgeons, airline pilots, take away all the small things that they have to think about so that they can actually, as you say, focus on the things that you can't plan, you can't systemize, like, taking photos of families, or in their instance is stopping the plane from hitting the mountain, or saving someone from the brain thing or the heart thing or whatsoever. So it's and I think one of the things in I think it's that book or the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber is where one of those authors talks about the fact that most business owners fear systems because we believe it's going to take away our staff's ability to think and to be creative. But I think you and I both agree that actually it's the complete opposite.
It's completely opposite. And if you're not convinced about systems, when you go to sell your company, you have anywhere between a 1.5 and a 2.5 multiple added on to the value of the company if you have documented systems in your business, marketing systems, experience systems, accounting, so whatever. The more documentation and systems you have in your business, the more valuable it is when it comes time to sell. So there's an added, benefit and reason why you want to have systems in the business. And it doesn't take away from the employees' effectiveness, and it doesn't take away from their ability to ad lib or, work in a particular situation. They have that creativity. They have that freedom. As long as the job's getting done, you can react to the situation, how the situation demands. And it's just, it's the consistency. And I think that's what Disney is also known for, is that it consistently delivers an excellent product. And so there's no, swoops and ups and downs and, Martha's having a bad day today. So, all of Disney is, in the toilet. And then, Martha's got she's happy today. It's her birthday. And now systems equalizes and delivers consistent service across the board.
Yeah, absolutely love that. So you, as you just said, you've got 3 businesses yourself. You run them in 90 minutes, just kissing babies, eating bonbons, which sounds a bizarre thing to do as a business owner, but hey, whatever, you go with that. So what do you think? So obviously you've come at that from having experienced 10 years of systems Disney, goodness knows how many employees. There must be tens if not hundreds of thousands of employees across all those parks. So I can see how someone like you spending a decade in that goes to run a business that you've bought or started or however you got those businesses, and it's just a no-brainer, right? Oh, well, we'll just run that on systems. But you take the average MSP who perhaps has been running 4, 5, 6 years, might be listening to this or watching this on YouTube, and where do you start, right? Because by the point you've got like 3, 4, 5 technicians, you've got some clients. There's always a crisis. There's always proactive work that's not being done that should be done. Every day there's more tickets coming in than can be answered. When you're at that kind of point where you're starting to lose control of the business that you started in the first place to get control, because we all start a business to get control over what we do, who we do it for, and how we do it. And we all know that we gain that control when it's just us, then we lose that control as we gain stuff. That's typically the experience. So where do you even start in a situation like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's not a sexy answer, but what you have to do is map out your entire customer journey. So whatever the first point of contact with your business the customer has, whether it's a website, a postcard, a phone call, whatever, that's point number 1. And then you map out every other point throughout the customer journey from the customer's point of view, not from your point of view. So let's say, point 1 is a phone call. Great. And your next step would be to visit their place of business to do an estimate or see what they need to have done. In between those two steps, the customer is doing something. The customer is waiting. So they're waiting for you to come. They're waiting for you to send something. What are you doing in that wait period that is going to help move the sale forward or create some kind of experience? Because let's say they're shopping around and they've called 3, MSPs to help them out. The one that does something between phone call and first appointment, 99% chance they are the winner because they've achieved what I call moment zero. And it's that first 7 seconds of, okay, we've made the impact. We've got the customer. And so you do that throughout the entire customer journey. And then at each point, you look and see, okay, how do we make this better? So it's answering the telephone. Most places answer the phone, thank you for calling Dave's Insurance. How can I help you? It's boring. It's bland. It doesn't stand out. So if you have a way to answer the phone that separates you from everybody else, quick story, I had a insurance company. Again, very boring, bland business. But the insurance agent was a rock and roll fanatic. So he had Led Zeppelin and Who posters everywhere and autographed guitars, gold records in his office. It was true rock and roll nut. And so we're doing the brainstorming on the customer journey with him. And we realized that answering the phone was like one of the key things. And also they wanted a way to sift, sort, and screen out people that would not be a good client for them. So actually the receptionist came up with the way for the company to answer the phone. So as I mentioned, he's a rock and roll guy. So she says, we'll answer the phone like this. Thank you for calling Dave's Insurance, the agency that rocks. Now, you say it 10 times, it's a little goofy, but it really, it's separate. Nobody else owns that. You own that, right? So you can't copy him. It's certainly different. So it's memorable, which is key. And it sifts, sorts, and screens out people that would otherwise not be a good fit for them. And so just by answering the phone that way, they've saved themselves time. They're attracting the people that they want to do business with. People that are like, oh, okay, this sounds kind of like fun. And it's not the stick in the mud kind of people. So, and you just do that with every step of the customer journey. How do we make this particular point better? And then, maybe 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later, you might come back to it and say, how do we make it better again? So Walt Disney had a term for this. It's called plussing. So he always wanted to plus the show. And so we have plussing teams that, get together once every other month, look at areas that could have the most bang for their buck, have the most impact on the customer or most impact on profitability, and say, okay, how do we make this better? How do we plus it? So you're not just resting on, okay, I set the system and now it's forget it. No, we've set the system and then you come back to it and you say, how do we get it going better?
Oh, I love that. And of course, the beauty of plussing is, well, you can't plus unless you've got a system in the first place. Because
exactly.
if it's not written down, answer the phone in this way, then you can't go back and tweak that in time. I'm interrupting myself to ask, do you want to discover which areas of your MSP's marketing don't work and how to fix them? Well, fill in my marketing scorecard to discover where you're going wrong. You'll get an instant score for your MSP's marketing, highlighting which areas need work. Plus, I'll send you a personalized report telling you how to fix your biggest marketing challenges. Go to mspmarketingedge.com/scorecard, or better still, scan the QR code. I remember speaking to an MSP a couple of years ago, and he hired a dispatcher. and the dispatcher was obviously a non-tech whose job it was to answer the calls and empathize with the client. So whatever they were calling about, even if it was a minor thing like I can't print, which obviously is the worst thing that anyone can ever say. I can't print. So boring to hear that. But for that client in that moment, that's the biggest problem they've got in their life. I cannot print, and I need this print this afternoon. So whatever that problem was, that dispatcher was like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That must be a real pain for you. Good news, we're going to get you sorted out, right? Regardless of what the problem was. Good news, I'm going to get you sorted out. And I remember talking to that MSP and how he was going to get that phrase, because there'd be days when the dispatcher wasn't there. And he's like, I'm going to get that phrase into every mouth, right? Anyone who ever speaks to a client about a new problem, I want them to say that that's so terrible, I'm so sorry. Good news, we're going to get you sorted out. So it kind of demonstrates empathy. But he didn't have a system. So he was on a constant battle of trying to get his technicians to say this phrase, right, which she'd said naturally, and it wasn't. But like you can see there, can't you? If it's a systemized thing, this is what we say to every new problem. And it doesn't matter if they hear it from us twice a week for the next 3,000 weeks, that all they're going to feel is empathy. They're not going to hear the same words over and over again. I love that. So I love the concept of plussing, but you need the systems to do the plussing.
When you have a system, you now have something that you can measure your employees against as well. So it's an employee review tool. So you're not comparing Fred to Bill, because that's not fair to either one of them. You're comparing Fred to the standards. You're comparing Fred to the system and say, hey, 80% of the time you're doing it great. 20% of the time, these are the points that you need to work on. So you're no longer comparing employees to each other. You're comparing employees to the standards and the systems that you've implemented.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And I will bet $5 that the single biggest offender in the business for not following the system is the business owner. Is that your experience?
Most of the time,
yeah,
they are.
I just won
because
$5.
They think they know. Oh, it doesn't apply to me.
Yeah,
and it truly. I mean, if you got to be congruent. I mean, you've got to have the ability to not just say do what I say, not what I do. I mean, you'll lose employees, you lose credibility, you lose authority. So you have to, when the system is in place, you got to do it.
Exactly. Well, those of us with kids know that, the kids learn more from watching what you do than listening to what you actually say. And it's no different at work. If you think of your team as your children in some respect, then that's true. Vance, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much. So tell us, what do you actually do to help MSPs, and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Sure. So the big thing that I work with certainly is I will help you with the entire customer journey. And the one thing we really didn't touch on that is extremely important, especially with MSPs, is customer retention. So you have to deliver a great experience in order to have any prayer of having customer retention. If you deliver average or bad service, your customers are not going to stick around. And so I also do a lot of retention strategies, both online and offline, with companies, so that they're always, it's what have you done for me lately? Trying to stay top of mind. And people are like, well, we've got the contract. We see them once a month or whatever. And I said, that may be true, but at the point they're ready, somebody asks, hey, who do you use? And if it's been a month since they've seen or heard from you, they may or may not remember you, because it is not your customer's job to remember you. It's your job to remind the customer that you exist. And I think it's something that many business owners, they miss that. And then as far as reaching out to me, certainly I'm on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Vance Morris Disney guy there. And I do have a special hot sheet for everyone. So if you're not feeling overly creative, I have something called 52 Ways to Wow Your Customer Without Breaking the Bank. And you can get that at wow52ways.com.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.